called Probably the Greatest Poem Ever. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and write a poem and I wouldn't lose any readers. I will build a great, great wall out of southern metaphors, and I will have all hell to pay for that wall. Mark my words. I will be iambic, get the phallic, the ballad monger, and bard to the women. I mean, I want to help women. The concept of the Dao Te Ching was created by and for the Chinese in order to make U.S. manufacturing non-competitive. I'm the most successful poet ever to run for the residency. By far, no poet's ever been more successful than me. I'm the most successful poet ever to run. Billy Collins isn't successful like me. Bukowski, I have a Gucci store that's worth more than Bukowski. Pablo Neruda is not a literary hero. He's a literary hero. He's a literary hero because he was exiled. I like poets that weren't exiled, I hate to tell you. Neil Cassidy was unattractive both inside and out. I fully understand why Allen Ginsberg left him for another man. He made a good decision. Nathan L. Brown is calling for a total and complete shutdown of morons entering the United States Congress until our country's poets can figure out what the hell is going on. I look very much forward to showing my heroic couplets because they are huge. Sorry, losers and haters, but my pentameter quotient is one of the highest ever, and you all know it. Please don't feel stupid or insecure. It's not your fault. Certain guys tell me they want poems of substance, not dirty limericks. It just means they can't get dirty limericks. My lines are long and beautiful, as it has been well documented, are various other parts of my poems. Why are we having all these poets from shithole countries coming here? Despite the constant lack of readers, kofefe. I loved my previous life. I had so many things going. Poetry is more work than in my previous life. I thought it would be much easier. Why would John Ashbery insult me by calling me accessible when I would never call him incoherent, abstruse, and exasperating? You know, I go to academic conferences and panels and I see all these poets and I see the swamp, and it's not a good place. I too have a poetic button, but it is a much bigger and more powerful one than his, and my button works. So, book 3. In book 3, we enter the season of voting, this September through November 2020. I got some of the weirdest commissions during this time. I mean, I got AOC, things like that. Somebody commissioned a poem for Rudy Giuliani. Somebody commissioned a poem, they wanted a poem about William Barr. It got weird. How the hell are you supposed to write about, what are you supposed to do? So there was one, though, I loved this request. This is from Gene Fell in Oklahoma, written on Wednesday, September 2nd. And the title of this poem is Watertight. Anyone who knows anything about conspiracy theories knows that all pizzerias, like Comet Ping Pong over in DC's Chevy Chase neighborhood, are throbbing hotbeds for satanic ritual abuse. And it's common knowledge that only Democrats would be interested in such horror shows. I mean, where have you been for the last 4 or 5 years? Besides, the Washington Post thinks their pizza tastes good, so you know Satan is involved. And of course, anyone who identifies as a 4chan poster going by Q Clearance Patriot, who's ashamed to give a name because most likely they're not one person, has to understand precisely what it is they mean by calm before the storm, referring to Trump's cryptic and completely disconnected from reality account of some gathering of military leaders that he apparently managed to pay attention to for once. But all others, including every intelligence agency in the world, remain somehow in the dark. Well, I, for one, being such the fan of common sense that I have always been, must admit this one appears to be as watertight as a frog's ass. She wanted a poem about QAnon. So QAnon, and so I have to. So because of the panel tonight, I have to read the one. This is for Rudy Giuliani. The person wanted to remain unnamed. Tuesday, November 7th. It's called Rudy the Red-Faced. Your own daughter describes the two of you as being multiverses apart. I'm sure it could be her fault, but kids are a powerful testament. In your brief career serving in the legion of attorneys who are watching over a president who mainlines corruption using dirty needles in the dark alleys of the West Wing, your neck no longer turns from whiplash and double takes. So your eyes and shoulders now have to compensate. And you can't bend down far enough to wipe that Ukrainian shit off the stilettos you sported as a transvestite nightclub singer. He did it. But it's not often that we have a chance to witness on live broadcasts the son of Italian immigrants dissolve before our bloodshot eyes like that German officer in Raiders of the Lost Ark, or maybe more like a highly profane version of the burning Buddhist monk. And yet your slow motion version is much more painful to look at. So in book 4, so that was in the days of our undoing. And this, as far as tonight's panel, a good part of this book is unhinged. Because there wasn't any avoiding it. What I found is that I've spent 2 years not writing about what I wanted to write about. I was writing about what other people were asking me to write about, which has permanently changed me as an artist. I'm permanently changed by this. Because I didn't necessarily get to do what I wanted. I had to go for it. They wanted it. So this one is called The Burden. To those who stormed the Capitol, Tuesday, January 12th. We each have who we listen to, which is never each other. So I am here to do that. I have finally learned that to get what I want, my mouth has to stop moving. And what we need to do here is seldom ever pulled off. History wearily tells us we'll kill each other's sons and daughters for a few decades before we get tired and sad enough. Another problem I see would be how incredibly annoyed I am already with what you're going to say. But that's my problem, and I will have to work through it on my own. In the meantime, know this: screaming obscenities, threatening my family, and smiting me with a flag I saw you let drag in the dirt will not change what I believe. Only good reasons. And I'm not so sure you have any of those. Therefore, please do some solid research before we begin. And QAnon is not a source. I recommend something more practical, like looking into the nature and the nuances of the burden of proof. And so I'm going to end tonight with book 1, and I want to do the poem that Tom commissioned here, and I'm going to try to figure out how to do this because this was one of the strangest poems that came out. And this was back, Tom, can you help me? It was like when you were basically being told that you had to go back into the classroom, and this was like when, like May.
This was in May.
At a bad time, May of 2020 or whatever.
And we're going to have to go back into the classroom in the fall.
Yeah, that you're going to have to go back into the classroom, and so basically it's the system, doing what it does best, which is jack us around. And so Tom commissioned this poem about his situation, and it was strange because I wrote the poem with this kind of English majory quirk to it. So it's called Praise Be for Tom Murphy, Friday, May 15th. And it goes, some do, insert adverb here, believe that the economy rate's more important than life. Nothing new. For centuries now, those same, insert adjective of your choice, grubbers have held commerce over the dead bodies of Tasmanian tigers, passenger pigeons, or other so-called inferior species. But all of a sudden, those, choose a noun that best fits your feelings, have determined that students and their teachers should be the next sacrifice we make to the ambiguous god of infectious diseases, wearing its latest crown. Now that we know voices kill, let's enclose them then in a stuffy fluorescent space for further heated discussions. Hallelujah, holy shit, to quote one of the notable educators of our time, Clark Griswold. And so, my friend who finds yourself among the condemned, allow me to join you in telling them to go, you choose a verb, themselves. Well, Tom, not realizing, Tom sent me 2 lists. He filled in those blanks. And he sent me one. The first one was the high road, and the second one was the low road. The first one was, the adverb was faithfully believe, and the adjective was entitled grubbers, and the noun was moguls, and the verb kill themselves. I'm going to read you real quickly the low road. So this is Tom's fault. That was the high road. Here's Tom's version. So this is not my fault. This is Tom's fault, and this is the low road. Some do absurdly believe that the economy rate's more important than life. Nothing new. For centuries now, those same greedy grubbers have held commerce over the dead bodies of Tasmanian tigers, passenger pigeons, or other so-called inferior species. But all of a sudden, those cocksuckers have determined that students and their teachers should be the next sacrifice we make to that ambiguous god of infectious diseases wearing its latest crown. Now that we know voices kill, let's enclose them then in a stuffy fluorescent space for further heated discussions. Hallelujah, holy shit, to quote one of the notable educators of our time, Clark Griswold. And so, my friend who finds yourself among the condemned, allow me to join you in telling them to go fuck themselves. All right, Tom. How in trouble are you now? We can take you out on the Bukowski camera. And you're retiring soon? So I'm going to close really quick. I'm going to finish with this real quickly here. And this was a poem. My therapist commissioned a poem. He's awesome, and his prompt that he gave me, that he wanted me to write, was what I should really tell my therapist is. My therapist asked me to write this. What I should really tell my therapist is, there are 3 sessions. I'm just going to read session 1, our time together. What I should really tell my therapist is, I told you so. Please, leave a little neurosis in there for good measure. I need it for work. Quarantine, I felt this all my life. Stay at home, all I've ever wanted. Shelter in place, man, I can do that with 1,000 people in the audience. We should have listened to Chicken Little. I'm not necessarily wrong about her and him, nor the other hers and hims. You know I'm analyzing you too. I have secret powers. I have not told you everything, not even in this long poem. Just because I am a cynic doesn't mean the world is not full of shit. I believe in poetic justice. I believe one of its better sentences would be, served by President 45 spending a couple of weeks in ICU on a ventilator he has to share with a bisexual bus driver who's now lost his job and health insurance. Now, whether or not it's the greatest sentence would be carried out, well, that would be up to God. I acknowledge the evil in me. It's how I locate the good. If a picture paints 1,000 words, then I will write 2,000 and so kick the picture's ass. That which does not kill us makes us age terribly. On the poetry shelf at the bookstore, there is something for everyone, but I am always amazed at how much of it is for someone else. Humor, often dark, sometimes even sick, is the only way I can deal with the tragedy and sorrow, let alone the lunatics all around. No matter how artfully you say something, it can never cover for having nothing to say. What I should really tell my therapist is my writing practice so far has been a very careful and steady violation of most critics' personal preferences. The last 7 or 8 pithy little quotes give you a hint of the signal-to-noise ratio here up in my head. This will be the longest poem in an already long book. Are you sorry yet? I like Vienna sausages and ice cream with toffee bits in it. I've been thinking too much about what I'd do if suddenly my diet wasn't going to add a day to my life. I love my country, but I'm getting pretty damn tired of its United States. I appreciate your efforts to save us, but not all of us are worth the grief. I'm sorry, we've run out of time for today, but I'll be back soon.